Alcohol has been a challenge for Clay County residents, as it is for everybody. Brought in a lot of money in the 1890s and the early 20th century, but caused huge problems as well.
The wets are those who are in favor of alcohol. The dries are those who are opposed to alcohol and are seeking to ban it. There's really three time periods. The first is settlement, where we're a Wild West tent town beginning in 1871, and each community choosing whether or not alcohol will be a part of that community. The next period is the 25 years between 1890 and 1915, when North Dakota was dry, so Clay County, just over the border in Minnesota, was soaking wet. Especially Moorhead becomes a booze boom town. The last period is from 1915 to 1937, when alcohol was prohibited, prohibition in Clay County. Settlement here in Clay County started with the Northern Pacific Railroad coming here in 1871. Every year, wherever the construction stopped for the year, a tent town full of laborers popped up, and around the laborers came gunmen, came prostitutes, came gamblers, and came a lot of good people too. But mixed among them were the desperados, the people who want to live one step in front of the law.
You know, the trains are now coming to Fargo, but in the preparation of getting the bridge built, getting the railroad across, think Helen Wills, the television show, that's somewhat of the picture of what it was like. So when the building begins, you have different groups of people. You have the engineers families in some cases. They're building the headquarters hotel, which is Fargo on the Prairie. And then Fargo and the Timber is closer down to the river. The alcohol, drinking, gambling, places, and they're intense at this point. So it's a development that goes along with the evolution of a town.
The Wild West happened in Minnesota too. This was the definition of lawless until the gunfight between Shang Stanton and Slim Jim Shumway. April 25th, 1872, the first spring that Moorhead exists, a gambler named Shang Stanton got into an argument with a notorious killer named Slim Jim Shumway. Shang was warned by a friend that Slim Jim was gunning for him. And so Shang's in a saloon, and Slim Jim kind of taps him on the shoulder and says, "Hey, Shang," and then Shang doesn't wait to get shot. He turns around and shoots him in the gut. Shang runs out into the street. Slim Jim crawls out after him, shooting all over the place. At the end of it all, two people are lying dying. Two people need to be arrested. A merchant named Jim Blanchard agrees to be the guy that takes Shang into custody. So he becomes the first sheriff of Clay County. Then they need somebody to try the guy. One of the railroad laborers happened to be a down-on-his-luck lawyer named Solomon Comstock. Solomon Comstock would later become Moorhead's most influential founding father. He becomes the first Clay County attorney. It was ruled that Shang acted in self-defense. What was left behind was a better place. Farmers came and busted sod. Villages sprouted up, and every time there was a new village, the people decided whether or not alcohol would be a part of it.
Skip forward to 1889, and you have North Dakota, South Dakota becoming states. When they became a state, there was a referendum with that, and by a very small margin, North Dakota was dry. It did not change the dynamics, particularly in Fargo, because it's a border city.
Moorhead, like many border communities, became a booze boom town and became a place for thirsty North Dakotans to come to drink. By 1900, there were 45 bars operating in Moorhead. Population was about 3,700 at that time. So that's like one saloon for every 80 people in town. clearly it wasn't Clay County residents that were supporting these saloons, it was people coming from dry North Dakota. The locations of the saloon buildings in Moorhead during that time period reflect that. Early in the period in 1890, most of the saloons were strung out along what's now Center Avenue in Moorhead and downtown. But by the end of the period, by 1914, 1915, it was clear that the customers are coming from North Dakota. So by 1914, 75% of the saloons were within 2 blocks of the 2 bridges between Fargo and Moorhead. So they wanted to be just as close to Fargo as they could.